Hello. Okay, we got people still coming in. So what we'll do is hey, let's go. We're gonna give it a couple of minutes before everyone comes, before we dive into the juicy bits. But I'm excited for this one today, guys. We are joined by Christian, who's head of growth over at Salesforge. Salesforge is a really cool tool. For those of you that don't know, I'm not going to butcher the kind of what is Salesforge. I'm gonna let you do that, Christian. But I think for today, a few things from my side. We're going to talk quite deeply on like AI agents and where we see them going in 2025 and like how you can leverage AI agents, the tools that are out there, and like Salesforce has a really cool agent that you can use for like an AI SDR. But I want to keep this really interactive. So rather than doing a Q&A at the end, I would love for any questions to happen throughout. Just like ask us questions as we're going into it, and we will do our best to answer them as we go through, rather than like stockpiling all of the QAs at the back. You have an echo feedback. Do I? Da-da-da-da-da. Is that better now? We shall see. Hopefully that is better. Sounds good. There we go. Appreciate it. Okay, cool. Well, we've got a lot of people already in, so let's I think get started because we're 4 minutes in. Christian, mate, welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm super
Um,
happy to be here.
yeah, man, I'm excited for this one. I love agents, as kind of and I think everyone who's probably joining the call knows. And if they follow me on LinkedIn, I build a lot of agents myself, and spend a lot of time in this space. So this is personally a subject that I could talk a lot about on for freaking hours, really. But maybe before we go into things, quick intro into you and also Salesforce for people who don't know who you guys are as well. I think that'd be handy, a little bit of context.
Yeah, great. Hello, everyone. My name is Christian. I'm the head of growth at Salesforge. So, Salesforge, we're a platform that essentially helps you scale your outbound and generate more pipeline without growing your headcount, whether that's through deliverability monitoring, sophisticated email infrastructure, um, and agentic SDRs. So we're basically a one-stop shop for your outbound needs. If you're really looking to scale your outbound to, 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 monthly emails or prospecting really at scale, Salesforce is a great place to do it at. Spectacular deliverability, really sophisticated without, needing any technical expertise, building workflows, etc. So feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. You can ask me questions there after as well. We'll be distributing like a guide that you can have, and I'm happy to share like tools or hacks that I come across now and in the future as well.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, because so MailForge is like a dual tool in the sense of, or maybe it's like three elements to you. Like you can buy domains, like you can purely use
Mhm.
it like a domain infrastructure like system, right? In theory, and then
Yeah.
connect those domains to other tools if you wished. Then you also have like the actual sequencing components as
Mhm.
as an option. And then you also have this new agent as well that's recently come out as well, which is quite cool.
Yeah, Salesforge in itself is an ecosystem of outbound tools, essentially. So we have Salesforge, which is that sequencing part. We have Mailforge, where you can buy domains. We also have InfraForge, where you can build your own dedicated, email infrastructure without having to go through Google or Outlook, etc. And yeah, you're right. Now we've also added an agent to it, and we're adding a lot more tools to that ecosystem later this year as well. But it's really in this ecosystem that you can build and scale all your outbound flows.
Awesome. And out of curiosity, and this kind of leads to like the whole bigger like agent like perspective. Like, what was the reason that you guys introduced? Because what do you call the agent, by the way? You call it a name, right?
Agent Frank.
Frank, of course.
Yeah.
So Frank's the founder, by the way, of
Yeah.
Mailforge, Salesforge, InfoForge. What is the actual overarching name? Like, out of curiosity, what do you guys Is it Salesforge is like the brand?
Yeah. So Salesforge. also our flagship product is the brand. I mean, we refer to ourselves as forgers. What this really is like a forge for you to like forge your pipeline, create new things for outbound.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're Salesforge.
Nice. Okay, so you got Agent Frank. So what prompted you to build Agent Frank in the first place?
Mhm. Yeah, so I mean, 2025 is gearing up to be the year of agents, and it's because, it's a very turbulent time, especially in like how the markets are going and how people need to generate even more pipeline with a lot less. Mm. So we found that teams were really struggling with going out there, finding a lot more with existing resources. So people need a tool that can help them automate certain things or find cost efficiency, become more efficient in their prospecting, enrichment, outbound, without needing to replace humans because AI is still not great at, reading emotions or handling very complex um, problems that are very personal or subjective. So we built Agent Frank that really takes a hybrid approach that can help teams automate very repetitive tasks so they can get that efficiency, meanwhile keeping things very human and personal. And it's very different than what, other solutions are on the market. Like we can talk about Clay and how we use Clay in our workflow flows as well, but where there is space to use something like Agent Frank or another agentic SDR.
Yeah.
But yeah, just balancing that efficiency with, the human touch is what drove us to develop something like Agent Frank.
Yeah. Well, that's a big difference, right? Like agents versus like what Clay has. Like my interpretation of an
Yeah.
agent, right? There's like I think we all get confused between automations and agents. Now, Clay obviously has Clayagent, but
Mhm.
even then, like at least the way that I think about like an agent is the agent has to be able to reason with itself and
Yes.
be able to effectively talk to itself on whether this is, correct, not correct, good fit, not a bad fit, what should it do? You know, typically Clay is like an automation, and typically Clayagent is like a one-track focus point from like
Yeah.
an agent. Like you give it a task and it goes does it, which yes, you could argue is like agent-esque, but like is it
Mhm.
there is the lines are pretty blurred, but my interpretation, at least, and the way that I like to think about agents is it can reason with itself and it can speak to itself and therefore get to that reason. And so we're seeing a lot of these LLMs now starting to do this, I guess,
Mhm.
like the O1, O3 models, the R1 and DeepSeek, they all have like these reasoning capabilities and deep research, which effectively is like the system, and you'll see it when you type in, it like starts to talk to itself and says, oh no, that might be right, that might be wrong, this might be right, that might be wrong. And it kind of gets to the answer itself rather than, kind of just a one track focus. And so I think, and I don't know if like that's how you guys interpret like agents, like when we look at like Clay,
What? Yeah.
it's more of an automation and it's an LLM with the ability to search Google and scrape what it sees than necessarily being totally like agentic, like agent, so to speak, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, that is something I would agree with heavily. So for us, like when we look at what makes a sales team very successful or, how sales teams that are successful act, it's the sales teams that are continuously learning more about their prospects, learning more about their customers, their deals, so they can get to close faster. Um, and that's where an agent comes in handy because agents are like constantly learning, whereas Clay doesn't have that ability. So it's always learning from patterns that are set up, future patterns, etc. And if you're not learning, what you're doing through something like Clay is really spam at scale. Because if you're not getting, more personalized messaging, if you're not getting to your, closer to your prospects, if you're not integrating other tools that can help enrich your data, it's really just spam at scale. So it's that learning component that's super important, and you're only going to get that through an agent. And
Mm,
that's really one of the biggest advantages of
yeah.
using an agent
And that's why,
is.
well, like I guess like let's answer this question. You mentioned that you use Clay.
Mhm.
How do you use Clay? And I think that's going to then show people, I guess, the differentiator why you would use. How do you use Agent Frank and how do you use Clay? Because people will be like, that's a bit weird. Like you guys are a outbound tool, why would you use Clay? So I think it's cool to see like the actual clear use case differentiators between the two.
Yeah, so right now I use both Agent Frank and Clay to basically grow our pipeline. We use Agent Frank primarily for outbound. This is really where the technology of Agent Frank comes in handy, and that's the case with most AI SDRs. They are really developed for outbound. Where Clay comes in handy, I've built very complex, sophisticated flows on Clay that work together with other tools like Lead Magic, other enrichment tools, all tied together via things like NEN, which is just another competitor to Zapier. And this is mostly for inbound and helping, you know, leads basically move through the funnel. So we lean on Agent Frank to do most of our outbound because, again, that learning component, it's always learning more about our ICP. It's doing the prospecting based on the data that it has. It's doing all the repetitive tasks that are in the sales process. So that's things like, never missing basically an opportunity. Sometimes salespeople forget to do a follow up. AI SDRs, Agent Frank will never do that. Like there's always continuous follow up, etc. That's where Agent Frank comes in handy. Clay isn't really suited for like outbound in that sense because it can't learn. I mean, you can integrate it with like certain GPTs, etc., but it can't really learn, so it's not really geared towards outbound. What it is good for though is inbound flows that require less learning because we already know about the lead that's in the pipeline and we can use enrichment tools to learn more about them. And then it's just matching their industry to whatever problem that they have that we're solving with our tool.
Okay.
So we use Clay mostly for inbound.
Yeah, okay, I get it. It's like for more complex queries that are yeah, like well, it's more complex queries or tasks that you start to use the agents for, right? Which makes sense. So
Yeah.
we had a question here around the kind of ease and the implementation of Agent Frank. So like, and I guess this is a lot of people's concerns with using agents, which is what are the rules that you can set? Can you set rules? Can you give it instructions? Can you give it guardrails? Like, how can you stop it spazzing out? Basically, I think is like what like probably the biggest fear that people tend to have with like using agents and like fully automating that process. Like, for example, replying to someone, some people might have a lot of like phobia over that. So, how does Agent Frank tackle that? How do you think the industry of like agentic kind of agents should be tackling that as well, out of curiosity?
Yeah, so unlike other tools, Agent Frank comes with multiple modes that you can. My AirPods are dead.
That's good.
Okay, great. Let me know if you can hear me.
Yeah, yeah,
But
all good.
we come with a like fully autopilot mode or a co-pilot mode. So in the autopilot mode, you can let Agent Frank do its thing on its own. You can set your ICP, you can set, standards around messaging, you can set your voice, your tone, who you're really targeting, etc. And there's rules around how much personalization, where the messages are personalized, etc. And our onboarding team also helps every customer that comes on to Agent Frank learn about these rules, guides, guidelines, tips and tricks, etc. Then there's a co-pilot mode where you get to approve where what Agent Frank does next. Um, so you get to kind of navigate the decision making in that sense. Regardless, across both modes, the more that Agent Frank does, the better it gets. And again, Agent Frank is always learning from itself and it's always learning from its interactions and the patterns that are taking place. So as you scale, the agent also gets better. But it's really up to you in how complex you want Agent Frank to work out from the very beginning. My tip is always start small and then grow bigger. So we started Agent Frank with one particular ICP, for example, um, or we integrated for one specific product or one value proposition, basically just one niche problem that we're trying to solve. And we just let Agent Frank do all the outbound for that specific program. Same thing that we did on Clay. We built our complex inbound workflows for a very specific group of leads that downloaded our ebook. And then we
Okay.
kept testing it out. And
Yeah.
that's also one thing too that I do want to hammer home. 70% of the work that you will do when working with your agents, your AI agents, is testing.
you have to be continuously testing everything, testing, where you're getting your leads from, your data from, etc. Testing, where you want Agent Frank to personalize, how much of the message you want it to be personalized, all the different variables. That's where you're going to spend most of your time. It's the testing, not really the setting up. The setting up isn't actually the hardest part. It's more so the testing that's more rigorous. So yeah.
Okay, cool. We have a few people asking, like, can they see it? Like, do you have anything you could show?
So what I will do is I will send out a Loom after, if that's okay with everyone,
Yep.
like show you a few of our flows. I can go into Agent Frank and share it right off the bat now because there's a few proprietary things that that I have in my flows that I can't really share. But I will share with you like a Loom of a flow that we have set up for like a test case, if that's okay.
All good. All good. Okay, cool. So let's go on to like you guys, right, in Salesforce. Like, so I'm assuming you're using Agent Frank to scale your company. Like, what does the actual go-to-market strategy look like?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, where do you use the agent? Where do you use people? Like, because you guys are crushing it, right? So
Yeah.
walk us through like the go-to-market strategy with the use of agents.
Yeah, so the use of agents again, our agents handle basically all of our outbound. And that's really in automating all the things that a human doesn't really need to do. So anything, really from prospecting, follow-ups, booking calls, etc. Those are just very repetitive tasks that an agent can handle very easily, add in some personalization in there, and it can do it not just easily, but also very well. What our humans do in the outbound is handling the complex tasks. So, for example, if we get an enterprise client where there's multiple touch points with multiple different stakeholders, our humans will handle that. If there's a very complex problem that there's a lead trying to solve, our humans will handle that. But if it's a very A to B situation that is very similar to what we've been able to solve for like many other people, or it's a very quick setup, then our our agents will handle that. So the trick here is to not see what Agent Frank can handle, but more so know what Agent Frank cannot handle in your current sales process. Once you know what Agent Frank is not able to handle, then that's what you won't automate. And that's really where Agent Frank will come in very handy. For some of our clients right now, we always see like the most successful ones know where not to use Agent Frank, and that's how they get the best results. So don't use Agent Frank for things that are very subjective or have very complex emotional needs. Use Agent Frank for things that are very repetitive or can be easily automated.
Yeah. Okay, cool. And we got a few questions around Triggerfy and Agent Frank slash Salesforge integrations. We don't have one at the moment, guys. If you would want one, let us know. That's definitely something that we can explore and are already exploring, which is cool because all these things, right? Like agents are only as good as the data that you give them, as obviously you'll
Mhm.
know, having built a tool around it. So it's really important that you get some good data in there. So that's something that we're exploring at the moment is creating the connection between the two tools and then really starting to power up Agent Frank and other parts. But I guess that is interesting question, right? Because like if I think of some agents out there, like competitors, I guess to you guys, you got like 11x is probably like a big one. Reply.io, I think, has one. There are a couple others. Like what's the difference in the agent space and what like if someone was because I'm assuming, right, like people will go and demo all of these tools prior to making a
Mhm.
decision. What do people need to look at when testing slash demoing these tools on whether this agent will be good for me, not just in the short term, but like allow me to scale up and kind of be with it for the long term, I guess. Because I'd hazard a guess some of these agents could demo really, really well, look amazing, but when you're 6 months into it, probably a pile of crap. Um,
Mhm.
so what should people look out for that perhaps they're not when it comes to demoing some of these tools?
Yeah, a couple things to keep in mind. So number one is the stream of data that you're feeding to these agents, and what you're able to feed. Because if you're going to have garbage in, you're definitely going to have garbage out. So look at, the amount of integrations that can be set up, or how you can combine your agent into other tools. Number two is deliverability. So Salesforge itself has a really good track record on deliverability. If you're going to use a platform, where they don't publish their deliverability stats, or they don't share enough about, how their deliverability infrastructure works, you're going to know, even if you use their agents, if the communication is not even hitting the inbox, or through other channels, it's not even going to work. So that's where we shine. I mean, a lot of agencies use our own infrastructure to power their own products. So we have a really good track record there. So those are two things I would keep in mind. The quality of data that you're able to feed into the agents, it matters a lot. And number two, like the deliverability. Will your comms actually be delivered through the agent?
Right.
Just getting started.
And does the I'm assuming the agent doesn't handle deliverability. Like you still have to go set up the domains using perhaps InfraForge or
Mhm.
equivalent, um, and then kind of set that up inside of Agent Frank. Like that's how it works, right? The agent
Yeah.
doesn't. I mean, that'd be pretty freaking cool. Like if the agent, I guess, purchased the domains and set it up for you and stuff like that. But I'm assuming that's not the case.
Well, Agent Frank won't do that. It may look like Agent Frank does that on our end, but really it's our team doing that for you. Um,
Oh,
but
cool. So
yeah,
you
it's
set
not
up the
looking
domains
different.
for people?
Yeah, we can. We definitely have packages or tiers that are suited for that. So really, Salesforge is geared to be that ecosystem for everything related to outbound. So you want to make sure that you're finding a great agent. Again, the quality aspect, the personalization features that you have, but also this deliverability part is so important. And that's where Salesforge is so good, because we can pull other parts of our ecosystem to help out there. 11x, or other tools, they may not be well suited to do that for you.
Fair. We got a bit of a spicy question that just came in, Christian. So
Mhm.
I imagine you get asked this all the time on demos as well. So how are you different from Instantly?
Yeah, in a lot of ways, I'm trying to think of the most. Okay, so I mean, instantly really only helps you with a very small part of your outbound process, whereas Salesforge really looks at the entire sales process and how we can really be that place for all your outbound needs. So, funny story, Frank, who's the CEO of Salesforge, he actually demoed me his platform when I used to work at my previous company like a year ago. So I was in the market for a cold email platform, and I signed up for a demo through Salesforge.
Nice.
I got the demo, but went with Instantly instead, because to me, Instantly just looked like it was easier to get started with, etc. Where I went wrong, though, was that as I was beginning to scale my cold email campaigns, I was running into issues with Instantly, because it didn't have the agentic part. It didn't have like the sequencing part, or the tools I needed to help me scale very effective sequences. Where at Salesforge, I could get my own domains. I could build my own private email infrastructure. So I don't need to run off of like Google or Outlook or whatever else. I could run on my own email servers. And that could really help me get to like 10,000 plus monthly emails. And then I could even integrate an agent. So instantly really is good if you're a small like marketing team or a small growth team looking to get started with cold email. But once you're really hitting volume, instantly is not a great place to be. You need other tools, like perhaps like private email infrastructure, perhaps like an agent that can help you automate like a whole bunch of repetitive tasks. And that's where Salesforge is more advantageous.
Yeah. I don't think Instantly has an agent, right? Like it's
No,
more like CRM, email sequence-esque. I think they do like a level of domains now, but it's not. I don't think they've introduced like an agent from my
no.
perspective.
And as Google rolls out more and more rules around how, their email product works, like instantly becomes more like much less attractive, because you still can't build your own email infrastructure. You still have to go through like the roots of Google or Microsoft to use instantly.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. Okay, cool. And where do you see agents going? I guess like this year, like let's park. Well, I guess it's Salesforce included in this, but like, what is the evolution of like agents in your perspective? Like, where is
Mhm.
this whole industry perhaps going?
Yeah, agents are getting smarter and smarter. Even our own agent itself is getting very smart, getting more equipped to handle, you know, more emotional questions or questions that relate that are very specific or relate very closely to a specific ask, is how we describe it at Salesforge. But where I see like this space going with agentic workflows is, 11x and more platforms are coming out with replace your entire sales team with an AI agent. We don't do that personally at Salesforge. We think it's the wrong message to go down. And I would honestly red flag any platform that kind of gives you that message. We don't believe that AI agents, even in the next like 3 to 5 years, could fully replace your sales team. We take a more hybrid approach and we help our clients figure out this is what Agent Frank can help you replace, and this is what it can't. And
Mm,
if you follow this grid, you're going to have a really successful outbound program. So I am starting to see more and more messaging from competitors or other tools about fully replacing your sales team. I think they're over promising. I think you should. I think where we need to see more development is more tools, more integrations that can help augment existing sales teams, and that's where Salesforge is developing our AI agents. Can we provide more tools, more integrations with Agent Frank to help sales teams, the humans on those sales teams, get better, get more productive, focus on closing? So
mm.
that's where I see our AI agents going this year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. We've been toying with introducing an agent into Triggerfy actually. Funny enough, like our agent obviously is not going to be an AI SDR, but like what I like about agents, like just generally, is especially from like a software perspective, is they can be very handy at like helping users get activated, right? And so like let's think about it like
Mhm.
from a Salesforce perspective. Like if someone doesn't know really uh what to say in an email, what a sequence should look like, the domain side of things, like how to reply people. I guess typically they would have come to customer success or done like some webinar or something like that. Now with like Agent Frank, it kind of, I guess, does a lot of that for them, which is quite cool.
Mhm.
And it's the same what we're thinking with Triggerfy is like, well, hey, what if we could have an agent monitor every single person in their ICP, competitors, thought leaders, their own brand, understand every single engagement and interaction that's ever happening across Twitter, podcasts, Reddit, LinkedIn, YouTube, and then start to decipher which leads that they should go after based on everything that it's seeing.
Mhm.
Pretty bloody cool. But also like if you're trying to create like a marketing strategy, and that marketing strategy, like, well, hey, what content do we need to talk about? What audiences do we need to get into? Um, that is also where an agent could be pretty handy, which is like, hey, let's look at your whole TAM and see what they're basically talking about and look at every cluster of conversation and then like start to pull it out. And so what I see with like agents for 2025 is, really like how does it enable the individual to be better? And I think verticalization on agents are going to be more and more popular. And what I mean by that is like um, there'll be like specialists, so like a specialist within the sales team, like agent, a specialist within basically X industries. You're going to find it. I think the companies that are building agents to be horizontally focused, like kind of do jack of all trades, are going to
Mhm.
struggle. Like we've already seen OpenAI are like starting to flirt with the idea of bringing out things like operator and stuff like that. Like they will win the market for horizontally focused, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Um, and those companies such as yourselves and whomever that kind of double down inside of a vertical are going to be the ones that do incredibly well. Have you guys thought about like ever going even more niche and training like agent pharmaceutical Frank, for example, who's like super like knowledgeable on like a specific industry? Because I feel like I've done this, I've never seen anyone do that, and that would be pretty damn cool if because then it's like it's trained on like specific data sets. So the message it would send then would be so good as a result. Has that ever come up in conversations, like internally with the product roadmap or anything?
To be honest, it has, because as like marketing leaders ourselves, like how we do our marketing is very like problem specific, whether that's like a very specific industry or very specific CP or group of people. So that's how we approach our marketing and growth. And I always like tell the product team, I mean, the people who are using our products are going to come with that mindset. So maybe we should just build like an LLM or an AI that is geared towards that specific group of people. But then, there's trade-offs that you have to make in the product. There's discussions and conversations around it that I am not too involved in, but I do know like our product leaders at Salesforge are looking at that. But the application of agents at Trigify that you were just describing, that sounds pretty cool. That's something I would probably use myself.
Yeah. Yeah, it's good to help to create that. Like, because are you responsible for like the kind of content strategy at Salesforge?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, that's like the way. Like, I think like, and again, it goes back to the whole point, right? Which is like agents can do a lot of that heavy lifting. So you historically would have probably gone out, research companies, done some social listening yourself to work out like what we should be talking about, who are the key players, influencers, communities, which
Mhm.
is incredibly time consuming to do. And that's where I
Mhm.
think these agents can be incredibly handy. So how would someone get started with Agent Frank? There's loads of people wanted a demo, so we're very sad we can't see anything. So I imagine people will want to come and have a little snoop around. How would they go about doing that?
Yeah. Okay. So we'll be sending like a follow-up email to everyone. So I'll put in my link. You can book like a meeting with me, or if you meet someone else on the team, we'll show you like how you can get started with Agent Frank very quickly. Sorry that I can't show you anything right now. It's just that my Agent Frank space, the one that I have access to, is the one that we use for like Salesforge itself.
Nice.
It
How does it
has
work out of curiosity? Like, how quickly can you get Frank up and running?
um it depends. It depends how complex you're going to get started with. So what I always tell our clients is like first start small. So start maybe with like a very simple workflow. So you can get started in as little as 10 minutes if you wanted to, or it can take up to, let's say, like a day, for example, to set things up. But it totally depends on the level of complexity of the workflows that you're looking to set up. Most of our clients can get started in up to like 10 minutes. And then our team does like complete like white glove onboarding for Agent Frank as well.
Yeah.
So we will, help you figure out outside of Agent Frank what things you might need to do for deliverability, setting up inboxes, etc. Will guide you through like prospecting, making sure that you're using the right data sources, etc. So if you are looking for a demo or how you can get started with Agent Frank, just reach out to me. You can connect with me on LinkedIn, etc. as well.
Hmm. Okay, so we had a question come in here from Zara here. We said, when we talk AI agents, how discoverable are they if called from another AI system or agent in the internet and their automated integration based on this outer network call for service or pay use? I don't really understand what you mean by that. Do you?
No, no. How discoverable are they if called from another?
Zara, are you talking about them agents talking to each other? Or maybe some clarification on there would be cool. Yeah, talking to each other. I don't think agents do talk. Like I can't imagine. Well, an agent from two separate companies most likely won't talk to each other unless, I guess, Agent Frank inbounds to someone who's using perhaps 11x and 11x has got an inbound set up and speaking back to Agent Frank.
Might,
I don't know. But
might be.
otherwise, if you want like agents to talk to each other, like you'll find within Agent Frank, there'll be like multiple um, kind of conversations going on with Agent Frank speaking to himself or speaking to like a variation of Agent Frank inside of that kind of flow, so to speak. And likewise, you perhaps could go and um, build something not as complex, but that would speak to each other. But otherwise, it's very rare that like outside agents would speak to each other. It's more like an agent within like Agent Frank will be speaking to each other, if that makes sense. Um, so we'll take this last question before we kind of look to wrap it up here. But we did have a question. What is the differentiators between yourselves and 11? So a lot of people are curious, basically, based on the questions, like how do you guys differ from everything else? And 11x being one of them.
Mhm. The technology itself, so the degree to which Agent Frank can personalize comms, we've had people use both. Um, we also have like an entire series on our YouTube as well of people like using 11x, then switching over to Salesforge or using Salesforge and switching back to 11x. Um,
What is that main reason? Why do they switch out of curiosity? What's like their
Usually, like the personalization experience that they have on 11x might not have been as sophisticated or meeting the needs that they have right now. But I'd say for people getting started with Agent Frank, the biggest tangible differentiator is that you have access to all these other tools that will make your outbound flows even more successful. So Agent Frank will solve like the automated outbound part, but you will also run into issues like deliverability as well. You will also run into issues, monitoring your deliverability, feeding your data stream with good quality data, etc. And Salesforge, all the other products that we have solve those issues for you. And 11x is not geared up for that. 11x is just solving one part of the sales process, but we're building tools that can help companies or sales teams close. Um, and to close, it's you need to look at more than just what you're doing for like agentic outbound. So that's the biggest differentiator really between Salesforge or Agent Frank and 11x is the access that you get with all these other tools.
yeah, they're also quite expensive, right? Like
Yeah.
yeah, you guys
Yeah,
are
11x
you
is
guys are
super
what,
expensive.
$400
Not
or
great
something like
value.
that? Something like that to get access to Agent Frank on an annual perspective, and then what? Yeah, $500 a month. So I think that's like, I mean, not that we should go down to price, but also like from what I understand, they're pretty spenny as well. So
Yeah, I mean, but the ROI is also massive.
Evan said 60K for 2,000 contacts a month with 11x. Fucking hell. Yeah, that's quite a lot. Wild, huh? Okay, last one, and then we got to wrap it up here. But um, are your agents trained to learn from web scrape and search like other agent features, ideas to perfect themselves in order to be best from others at any given time?
Yeah, Agent Frank learns from like a whole bunch of data sources. I'm not sure if web scraping is one of them, but we do have a doc that outlines like where Agent Frank learns most from. But Agent Frank really was built and developed to be continuously learning from everywhere. So you can also feed it where you want it to learn from as well. So you also have that level of control.
Nice, nice. Cool. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been awesome. I love chatting about agents. I could literally sit here for hours and do it. Where do people go to find you, to find Agent Frank? Will
Let
Agent
me
Frank find
drop
them?
my LinkedIn in the chat, I guess.
Yeah, drop it in, and then they can reach out to you and get a demo. And we'll also send the Loom. I think what will be cool if we add to that Loom some differentiators between yourselves and some of these other agents as well, because that seems to be like the common question uh, there as well. But hold on, you've added that to hosts and panelists. Let me just add that to everyone so everyone can see it as well. There we go. So go connect with Christian. And then we also have Salesforge here. Go check out the tool. It's a really cool tool, guys. I mean, even like we've talked a lot about like agents today, but it's also really good for just, sequencing. The infra Forge is really, really cool. We've certainly used it. It's to help you set up like domains and all that jazz if you don't want to dick around, messing around with Cloudflare and stuff like that. It's also as well. So go do that. And then next week, if you want to join, I'm going to chuck the link for next week. We're joined by Le Growth Machine, where we're going to talk all things kind of outbound. So get on there, go join that call for next week. Also, start replying to some of our emails. Hit us up in Slack. Who do you want on this kind of, I don't know what to call it. It's like a live podcast. It's a webinar. It's a bit of a fireside chat. I don't really know what it is. But let us know who you want on, and we will get you know, the guests that you want on. But mate, Christian, this was awesome. Love what you
Thank you
guys
so
are
much.
doing. Love you, love Frank. It's a cool company. Go check them out. They love a bit of bacon.
We
Uh,
love bacon.
and really cool. All the best.
Take care. Thanks, Max.